Through Travel and Error, Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian by Matt Hamilton. And Matt's here. Hey, Matt.
How you doing?
Good. Good to have you in, pal.
Thanks for having me.
This is quite the story. We were talking 10 years.
10 years, yeah. I took off with a one-way ticket in September 98, and I haven't touched South America yet, so I'm still going.
And I guess you were somewhat derided by friends and relatives when you mentioned that Glasgow would be your first stop.
Well, nobody had really heard of Glasgow. Scotland was on their mind, but Glasgow was not really a destination anybody knew about. I had a friend from university who was from Glasgow, and that's how I tracked it down. My roots are Scottish, so I thought it would be prudent to start in a country that spoke English. But Glasgow, they have this Glaswegian accent, and it's not English.
You did not receive a Glasgow kiss, I hope.
No, I didn't receive a Glasgow kiss. I mean, that was the other thing, that if people had heard of Glasgow, it was Stab City.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard that reputation at all. But no, Glasgow, it was... I did get out of the airport, and I did find out where I needed to stay, and did start to decipher the accent, and I had a brilliant time. The Glaswegians are really friendly, brilliant people.
You're talking about 10 years of traveling through the world. I look forward to talking about South Africa specifically, where I know you'll be returning. But now as we're looking, you started in 98, so you're talking a few years pre-9/11, and now in the post-9/11, where air travel is a totally different thing. You're a guy with a backpack on, and many others have certainly gone backpacking through Europe and Africa, but not for 10 years. What kind of response, especially post 9/11, do you get when you go through airports and customs, people wanting to know what you're doing, where you're going, and why you're not taking much stuff with you?
You'd be surprised. I don't get asked that many questions. It's usually if I come back for a visit in Canada, that's when I get the grief. They want to know where I've been. I got sniffed out by drug dogs once upon a time, and that kind of got me locked up in the in Canadian holding cell for a little bit. But elsewhere in the world, they don't really ask. They're a lot of the countries I go to, they're happy to have tourists. They stamp your passport and say, "Have a brilliant time, and we'll see you when we see you." I think that's one of the nice parts about traveling in these third world countries. You do get fantastic reception, and
that doesn't seem to work so well as you cross into Detroit from Windsor.
No. And I'll tell you what, in other parts of the world, 9/11 doesn't. It's not as important. Life changed here after 9/11.
Yeah.
Southern Africa, they've got their own issues and problems to deal with. 9/11 was a news of it again, but it's put down the list. We got to deal with our own problems in our own backyard first and foremost.
South Africa is certainly as far away geographically as you can get, and it's a country most of us grew up hearing about apartheid and hearing about the jailing of Nelson Mandela and the freedom after 27 years and what appears to be massive changes. One of the things that we hear about a lot now, Matt, is the crime, particularly in Johannesburg. But this appears to be a place, from somebody who's never been to South Africa, asking somebody who spent quite a bit of time there, is it as beautiful as one might think once you get out of the cities themselves?
It's even more beautiful.
It is, eh?
Yeah, it's the diversity of the country is fantastic. Culturally, there's 11 official languages, so culturally, diversity is fantastic. Driving, if you fall asleep in the car, you wake up an hour later, you feel like you're in a different country. The topography has changed that dramatically. You've got mountains, you've got beautiful forests, you've got unbelievable coastlines. And the crime problem really isn't as bad as it's made out to be. Yeah, there are parts of Johannesburg and parts of Cape Town and parts of Durban that are a little dodgy, but it's like any major city. Toronto's got parts of the town that you really kind of want to avoid, but that doesn't mean the entire city's troublesome. So Johannesburg's the same way. And once you get out of the cities and in the rural parts, the reception, the hospitality, the sense of community, bar none. It's as good as it gets.
I'm curious if that place isn't dangerous, scary. What in your travels, was there some place that you did kind of go, whoa, this is some place that kind of took the piss?
Well, Israel. To be honest with you, I spent time in Israel, and I was blown away by the constant threat. Every time you walk into a public building, there's a security guard to pat you down, look in your bag to see if you've got a bomb. You drive your car into a car park, somebody walks around with a mirror, looks under for bombs. Open their trunk, look for a bomb. And people have just gotten used to that. They don't even break conversation. They walk in the door. They stick their arms out, and the person pats them down. They carry on. That, to me, was something that I didn't want to get used to. Israel, people asked me if it was a good place or a bad place. It was very interesting. And that was part of it. Just this constant threat that seemed to exist.
And you can certainly see why they're so vigilant in a place like Israel. That would. Now, you also mentioned that in your travels, you find Czech women to be some of the most beautiful in the world. How much time did you spend in the Czech Republic?
I was there for about a week and a half, but the downside was I had met a girl in Greece who had invited me to come up to the Czech Republic with her. So I was strolling hand in hand with her across the St. Charles Bridge, watching these gorgeous Czech women walk by, and I got some sore muscles in my neck.
I bet.
They were, absolutely beautiful. Eastern European women, drop dead gorgeous.
Available in mail order catalogs.
You gotta like
So the closer most of us are gonna get. One of the, and I just saw the picture in the book. The book is called "Through Travel and Error: Confessions of an Asylum-Seeking Canadian." The Crawl, which was where you spent quite a bit of time in South Africa. When I think of hostel, this is not what I think of.
No, this is as remote and unique a place that I've found anywhere in the world. It's in a part of the country called the Transkei, which was completely neglected by apartheid South Africa. It's very poor, very tribal, very rural. And this friend of mine went in there, he learned the local language, and he built a backpackers in the style of the community. And he's involved everybody in the community that he can to keep the place running. No electricity, no telephones. You arrive, if you've got a watch on, he makes you take it off. You sleep when you're tired, you wake up when you're not tired, you eat when you're hungry. It's simple as that. And the natural beauty, it's set in a natural amphitheater that stares out into the Indian Ocean. And you wake up to the sound of waves breaking, you make a coffee, and you go sit out on this cliff, and you look down and you see the fishermen catching your lunch and dinner, watch the pods of dolphin play in the waves. It's simple. You feel like you've gone back in time. And then strolling through this community, which is as poor of a place as I've ever seen, it changed my life. The friendliness, the sense of community, everybody looks after each other. We've lost some of that here in North America. A lot of neighbors don't know each other's names. Where there, they all take care of each other. And that, for me, was my weekend getaway. I worked about 300 kilometers away, and on the weekends I would boot up to the Transkei and stay with my friend and his amazing backpackers and soak in the beauty, eat delicious seafood, and live life to the fullest.